I had never felt more like a shadow than that morning. The main hall of the Lin estate glowed with morning light, polished tiles reflecting my sister's gowns as they drifted past in silken waves. Gold thread gleamed in the embroidery at their hems. Jade ornaments chimed as they swayed, and the air thickened with layers of orchid perfume. They were radiant, poised, and very aware of it. And me? I stood to the side, clutching a folded sash one of them had tossed at me, a servant in my own father's house. My daughters, father said warmly, voice carrying for the benefit of every steward and maid within earshot. Today you will bring honor to the Lin name. Remember your bows, your smiles. The crown prince seeks a bride who will bring grace to the palace. Then his gaze cut to me, sharp as a lash. As for you, Qiao, do not stumble. Do not speak unless spoken to. If your sisters need anything carried, you will carry it. Yes, father. The words were quiet, but my chest burned. I had grown used to being the forgotten one. It was not scandal that dimmed me in his eyes, nor even my nature. I liked men openly enough, and in our circles, that was tolerated so long as it brought advantage. My elder brother Lin Wei flaunted rich lovers before father and was praised for it. But I had no patron, no false suitor, no gifts to parade. Only my hands, calloused from idle sketching, and a heart too foolish to expect affection. So I was useful in other ways, to fetch, to follow, to be unseen. The palace gates loomed before us by midday. Carriages lined the wide avenue, lacquer shining like jewels, liveries embroidered with phoenixes and cranes. Daughters of every noble family stepped down in glittering procession, their voices lilting with rehearsed laughter. Guards held halberds in mirrored rows, and from the inner court the sound of zithers drifted, delicate and cold. Inside the audience hall, the world turned to crimson and gold. Long banners cascaded from carved rafters. Lanterns painted with dragons swung gently in the draft. At the far end, upon the high dais, sat His Highness, Crown Prince Zhao Yichen. He was younger than I expected, his features clean and severe, his eyes dark with the weight of command. His robe was deep green, the dragon stitched upon it catching the light as though alive. Beside him, perched upon a low cushion, was a girl of about 6. She wore peach silk with little pink ribbons tied into her hair buns. Princess Rui. Her legs swung back and forth, impatience written across her small face, as ladies bowed one after another. One by one, the noble daughters curtsied, recited poems, strummed instruments, performed everything their tutors had drilled into them. Their eyes flicked nervously toward the prince, seeking a flicker of approval, but his expression remained carved from jade. I shifted at the back of the line, a bundle of handkerchiefs in my arms, invisible as ever, and then, without warning, the child's clear voice rang out. Father, I don't like any of them. The hall stilled. A fan clattered to the ground. Even the zithers faltered. The crown prince arched a brow. None? You've hardly looked. They're boring. She wrinkled her nose. Her gaze drifted past brocades and jewels, sweeping over the hall until, heaven curse me, it stopped on me. Small eyes brightened. A finger lifted. That one. My heart dropped into my stomach. The basket nearly slid from my arms. The crown prince's gaze followed his daughter's gesture and landed on me. The weight of it rooted me in place. That is no candidate, he said evenly. He's better. Princess Rui's voice was cheerful, unyielding. He will be my mummy. Gasps spread like fire through dry grass. My sisters stiffened, faces ashen. My father's jaw locked so tightly I feared his teeth would shatter. Ministers shifted, nobles whispered, scandal blooming in every corner. I wanted to vanish. One official stammered, bowing low. "Your Highness, the child speaks nonsense. That boy is—" A raised hand silenced him. The crown prince did not remove his eyes from me. His gaze was unreadable, half amusement, half something sharper, like curiosity honed into a blade. I dropped to my knees. Bowing so deeply the stone floor pressed against my forehead. My voice shook. "Your Highness, forgive her jest. I am unworthy." But the princess skipped down from her cushion, small hands tugging insistently at my sleeve. "I wasn't joking. You'll be my choice." The world tilted. My father looked ready to collapse. My sisters glared daggers that could have cut silk. And above it all, the crown prince's faint smile broke the marble of his composure. "Bring him forward," he commanded. I could not breathe. Guards guided me, firm but not cruel, until I stood at the foot of the dais. My knees gave way again. I thought it would end there, that the prince would laugh, dismiss me, return to his parade of beauties. Instead, he leaned back in his seat, his eyes never leaving mine. "If my daughter chooses," he said slowly, "then I will not dismiss it outright." The hall erupted, protests clashing with astonished gasps. But I heard only the thunder of my own heartbeat. I had spent my life unseen, uncounted, and now, before the court of the empire, I had been seen too clearly. Whether it was salvation or ruin, I could not yet tell. The banquet ended in a blur of silk and murmurs. I don't recall the rest of the women's introductions. I remember only the feel of my father's burning stare between my shoulder blades, the scrape of sandals, as ministers leaned close to whisper, the way the air itself felt denser around me, as though every eye had branded me a trespasser. I thought once the guests departed, the matter would fade, that the crown prince would gently humor his daughter's whim and dismiss me back into silence. But when the moon rose over the palace roofs, a guard appeared at our family's quarters. His armor gleamed silver in the lantern light. "The crown prince requests Lin Qiao," he said. Father's face went ashen, lips trembling with words he dared not voice. My sisters exchanged wide-eyed looks, torn between outrage and envy. I bowed to them, though my legs felt like reeds in floodwater, and followed the guard. The path wound through gardens heavy with the perfume of night-blooming flowers. Lanterns lined the stone walks, their glow reflecting in lotus ponds, where koi stirred sluggishly. The music of the banquet had faded. Only the chirp of crickets and the echo of my own footsteps remained. The guard stopped at a lacquered door painted with cranes. "Enter." I swallowed hard, heart drumming, and stepped inside. The chamber was simple, not gaudy like the banquet hall. Screens painted with mountains, a low table with untouched wine, cushions arranged beside an open lattice window. Moonlight spilled across the floor in pale ribbons, and there he was. The crown prince sat with one knee bent, robe loosened from the stiffness of ceremony, his long hair unbound and spilling over his shoulders. He looked less like a ruler, and more like a man who carried storms behind his eyes. "Rise," he said, voice low, but even. I obeyed, standing awkwardly before him, my hands twisted together. "What is your name?" "Lin Qiao, Your Highness." He repeated it softly, as though testing the syllables. "Lin Qiao. The son your father forgot to mention." Shame burned in my chest. "Yes, Your Highness." And yet his gaze sharpened. "You are the one my daughter saw." I opened my mouth, desperate to explain, to insist it had been a child's whim. She did not mean... She meant exactly what she said? His interruption was quiet, but left no space for denial. He studied me for a long moment, gaze moving slowly over my face, my lowered shoulders, the nervous tremor in my lips. It felt like he was peeling away layers I had spent years hiding beneath. At last, he leaned back slightly, almost smiling. Intriguing. My pulse stuttered. Your Highness, I am not fit. Enough. The word cut like steel, yet there was no anger in it, only certainty. Fit or not, Rui has named you. And now the court will gnash its teeth because a child dared to see what they did not. As if on cue, soft footsteps pattered at the door. The screen slid open and Princess Rui bounded in, clutching a stuffed silk rabbit. Her face lit up when she saw me. There's my mommy, she squealed, rushing over to seize my hand. Heat flooded my cheeks. Princess! She tugged insistently. Stay with me tonight. Daddy can't keep you all to himself. The Crown Prince's lips twitched, half amusement, half something darker. Is that so? Yes, Rui said firmly, hugging my arm as if to anchor me. You belong to us now. The chamber spun. I was torn between laughter, mortification, and fear. Ministers would howl if they knew. My father would collapse of shame. And yet, as the little princess pressed close, and as the Crown Prince's gaze lingered, measured, consuming, unreadable, I felt something far more dangerous take root inside me. That night, I returned to our quarters with Rui's laughter echoing in my ears. Father cornered me the moment the door shut. Do you understand what you've done? He hissed, eyes wild with panic. The Lin name is mocked. The court whispers already, reject him. Reject him at once. I met his fury with strange calm for years. I had been his shadow, his embarrassment. And now, when fate twisted against his will, he begged me to save his face. I cannot refuse the Crown Prince's command, I said quietly. His hand shook as though he meant to strike me, but he didn't. He turned away, broken by rage and fear. I lay awake until dawn, heart pounding, the prince's voice replaying in my head. Fit or not, Rui has named you. For the first time in my life, I was no longer invisible, and that terrified me more than the shadows ever had. The days that followed blurred into a haze of stares and whispers. Everywhere I walked, eyes followed. Servants lowered their voices when I passed. Court officials smirked behind their sleeves, and noble daughters who once ignored me now whispered with venom in their gazes. The princess calls him mommy. I overheard one lady-in-waiting hiss. Absurd. An embarrassment. His Highness toys with him, surely. It cannot last. Their words clung like thorns, pricking deep into my chest. Even my own family was not silent. My brother Lin Bai cornered me one evening by the lotus pond. His robe was deliberately half loose, his fan snapping open with a practiced flick, every inch the favored son. Well, well, he drawled, his eyes glittering with cruel delight. Our useless little shadow has finally stepped into the sun. I stiffened. Don't start, Bai. Don't start? His laugh was sharp, cold. You stumble into fortune without lifting a finger while He snapped his fan shut, jaw tight. Do you have any idea how many men in the capital would kill for what you have? And you wear it like a burden. I clenched my fists. I never asked for this. That's the problem. His gaze burned into mine. You didn't ask, you didn't scheme, you didn't earn. And yet the Crown Prince looks at you. Rui clings to you. You don't deserve it, Qiao. And when His Highness tires of his toy, I will be waiting." His words cut sharper than any blade. I turned away before he could see how much they shook me. But doubt took root. That night I was summoned again, not by the court, but by the prince himself. His chamber glowed with the soft amber of lantern light, silk curtains stirring in the evening breeze. He stood by the open window, his silhouette framed against the moon. When he turned, his eyes were darker than before, storm-shadowed. "Do you know what they say of you, Qiao?" he asked quietly. My voice was small. "Yes." "And yet you let it trouble you." "How could I not?" I whispered, my throat tight. "They say I shame you, that I mock the dignity of the palace, that I'm nothing but a shadow the princess dragged in by mistake. Even my own brother says you'll—" My words faltered. "That you'll tire of me." Silence stretched. My chest burned with humiliation. Then, in one sudden motion, he crossed the room. His hand gripped my chin, forcing me to meet his gaze. His eyes blazed, molten and unyielding. "Listen to me," he said, his voice low, dangerous. "Let them sneer. Let them rot in their envy. You're mine, do you understand?" My breath caught. I trembled beneath his grip. Before I could protest, his lips crashed onto mine, fierce, demanding, unrelenting. The kiss stole the air from my lungs, stripped away every thought until there was only heat, only him. His arm tightened around my waist, pulling me against his chest, and I felt the raw power in him, ruler, man, storm. I gasped against his mouth, half in fear, half in something far more dangerous. When he finally pulled back, his forehead pressed to mine, his breath ragged. "You drive me mad, Lin Qiao," he whispered hoarsely. "Every time you flinch, every time you try to vanish, it only makes me want you more." Tears pricked my eyes. I'm not enough. His thumb brushed the wetness from my cheek. Gentler now, voice lowering into a vow. "You are enough. To Rui. To me. And I will tear down anyone who dares say otherwise." My heart twisted, torn between terror and the fragile, aching hope that perhaps, just perhaps, he meant it. And in that moment, I realized the truth, whether I wanted it or not. The crown prince had already entwined my fate with his. The storm came faster than I expected. By the next council gathering, the hall was already heavy with whispers. Ministers muttered behind their sleeves. Noble ladies fanned themselves in false pity. And I felt every pair of eyes pierce me like arrows. Princess Rui, however, had no such restraint. She marched into the center of the court with her doll clutched tight and her small hand wrapped firmly around mine. "Here is my mommy," she announced, her voice as clear as temple bells. "And Daddy said I could choose." Gasps rippled through the chamber. A tray clattered to the ground. Even my father's face paled, his lips trembling as though he'd swallowed poison. One minister stepped forward, his jade tablet trembling in his hands. "Your Highness," he cried, "this cannot be allowed. A servant boy as consort? The heavens themselves would reject such disgrace." Another chimed in, voice sharp with outrage. "It makes a mockery of the empire. Cast him aside before scandal consumes us all." I lowered my head, heart pounding so loud I thought I might faint. This was it. The moment the crown prince would dismiss me, send me back into the shadows where I belonged. But Zhao Yichen did not waver. He rose from the throne slowly, the gold of his robe catching the morning sun. His presence filling the hall with unshakable authority. His gaze swept over the ministers, sharp enough to draw blood, before settling on me. My daughter has chosen, he said, his voice calm yet thunderous, silencing the uproar. And so have I. The hall erupted. Protests, gasps, even muffled sobs. My father collapsed into a bow, his face pressed to the floor in humiliation. Lin Bai's eyes burned with fury, his fan snapping shut so hard the sound cracked like thunder. But none of it mattered, because when Zhao Yichen extended his hand to me, steady and sure, my knees nearly buckled. Lin Qiao, he declared before heaven and court alike, you are the one I claim. Not as servant, not as mistake, but as the one who holds my heart. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the banners above seemed to still in the air. I trembled, every part of me screaming that this was folly, that the court would never forgive, that my family would never recover. And yet, when his hand reached me, warm and unyielding, I found myself taking it. Rui squealed in delight, hugging my leg. See, Mommy? Now we're a family. Something inside me broke then. But not from fear, from release. For the first time in my life, I was not invisible. I was seen. That night, the prince's chambers glowed with lantern light. He pulled me into his arms, his lips claiming mine again and again, not with desperation this time, but with certainty. You are mine, he whispered against my skin, each word a vow. And I will never let you go. And for the first time, I believed him.